Welcome back to Prosperity Education Podcast. I'm your host, Ty Johnson, and we have an interesting one today. Interesting for a couple reasons. One, because this job always seems to be mysterious, whether it's in movies, social media, TV shows. Also, because it's so mysterious, people don't actually know that they can get into it. And because of that, people oftentimes mislabel it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Al Jones.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Good. Excited to get into this one today. So I want to jump right into it.
Yep.
So I said people mislabel. So you're an FBI agent, correct?
No. See, you mislabeled it right there.
Exactly. So a lot of people think that you are because the introduction I was given to you is that you are an FBI agent.
Yeah.
So can you shed a little light on that for us?
Yep. Man, I get so many things. So some of my best friends introduce me as, he's a sheriff, or he's Secret Service, or he's FBI, he's the feds, whatever. So I actually work for the state police in Illinois. But in that, I work in our executive protection unit. So most days when people see me, I'm in a suit and tie, gun badge, earpiece, and that's pretty much my day-to-day get-up. I'm assigned to the top 5 elected politicians in Illinois. So we protect the governor, his wife, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. And, day-to-day can look different every single day. So it's something that I love doing because it is different. Every single day is different. Like I said, the best way I can describe what I do day to day, it's pretty much Secret Service, but on a state level. And like you said, it is mysterious because we show up on scenes and to do advance work because they might be coming maybe a couple hours later or later on in the day, and we sitting there scoping it out, and people come up to you Secret Service, ain't you? And so I laugh, and I was like, something like that. So, then they kind of, very inquisitive, want to know what it is I do and how I got into it. So even just everyday people, they'll see, like, how did you get into this? You know what I mean? So I kind of give them the whole spiel on how I got into it. So I actually got into it, I won't say by mistake. I kind of got into it a little bit of what I wanted to do was get into practicing law. I wanted to be an attorney. But I got into it because I went to school to become an attorney, set up that track, and I did an internship with a law enforcement agency and just changed the scope of like what I wanted to do career-wise while I was in college playing basketball. So.
Okay. So Men in Black comes to my head.
Yep.
That's the first thing that came to mind. So you talk about you got the earpiece. You talk about you're wearing a suit. Is there any times that you're more undercover, or is it more you're always dressed in a suit and kind of distinct?
There are situations where we dress, I guess, down. So one of the things that we kind of use as like an unwritten code in our unit is we kind of match the dress of the occasion or whatever our dignitary is wearing. So there's times, like for instance, I'm not going to be out in a parade in the middle of July in a suit. So, for those type of situations, I might throw on a polo, some khakis or whatever, and some good walking shoes because you might be walking, in a parade or whatever. So usually in those situations, we kind of just dress for the occasion. But for the most part, we are in something more nice that you would go to maybe in a like a meeting setting or whatever. So our mindset is usually dress as if you maybe going to a press conference or something, unless the occasion calls for you to be dressed down.
Okay. And you said that it's for the state.
Yep.
But to my understanding, you still travel.
Yeah.
Like outside the state, outside the country with them. How does that work?
So basically, for example, I'm actually going out of state next week.
Okay.
To Washington, D.C., which I've been to several times. But it's one of those things where wherever the dignitary goes, that's where we go. And there's only certain instances when it's like a personal trip to where we typically don't go unless they kind of get authorization from the director of the state police to have security with them as they go. But, for the most part, we go everywhere. I've been all over the country, the world. I've been to Finland, Estonia, all over the country, of course, but, we kind of pretty much go wherever they go.
Okay, and then for someone who's never heard of this, what kind of mindset and what disciplines do you need to that you would say to be successful in this? Because how long have you actually been in this?
So total, I've been with the state police for coming up. I just started my 14th year, but I've
Okay.
been in this actual unit for about the last 7 years, 8 years.
Okay, and was it a shift that needed to change in your mental approach, or is it kind of the same disciplines?
It's kind of the same thing. So just I worked patrol before this, so it's kind of the same thing. Just staying vigilant and like our job is very reactive and sometimes proactive. But I would say actually it's more proactive. But if something happens, like we're most likely just gonna react to what happened. But no, our mindset really doesn't change when it comes to mindset, mentality. Maybe a little bit because there's some training that we go through. Once you get assigned to this unit, you kind of go through some training with maybe Secret Service or other state departments to kind of get you up to speed on like what's appropriate and what types of things to look for when you're doing whatever job it is you're doing. If you're an advanced site guy, that means you get there maybe hours before, days before, weeks before, even months before the event to get maybe exits and routes and all that stuff. So you're doing a bunch of proactive work before the event happens. And then the event happens and then you just forget about it and move on to the next one. So
I didn't know it was days. Well, I guess you do kind of what's called canvas.
Yeah,
It's called
yep,
canvas the environment, and we see realistic. Throughout the past couple of years, we've seen realistic reasons of why
that's
it's good.
important. Yeah.
Why it's important to canvas the area
Yep.
Before. What are some of the things that you had to endure yourself when in this position? So you said there's not really a mind shift or not really a discipline shift, but what are some of the things that you had to change about how you conducted yourself now that you're protecting somebody instead of going out? Because on patrol, I'm assuming that you're just pulling over people.
Yeah. You're responding to calls of service there.
Mm-hmm. So are you a little more discreet when you're a big guy, so it's hard for you to be discreet. But kind of what does that look? Essentially, what I'm trying to dive into is the person that you're protecting.
Yep.
What's the distances you have to be away from them?
Right.
Is there a certain kind of cadence with that?
Yeah. So with that, like that kind of goes into the training we get. As soon as you get assigned to this unit, you go through some training, and they kind of give you some kind of guidelines, and then you kind of adjust them based on the person you're protecting.
Okay.
So like if you're protecting somebody who's like super high profile, super like always around people, and I guess it also goes back into the environment that you're in too. So a lot of times in parades, we deal with people that you don't have a chance to screen thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So the best you can do is just kind of be vigilant. So now we call it a leash in our lingo, to where how much leash do I give this person that I'm protecting? Mm-hmm. And it all depends on the situation. So for instance, if we come into this school and they're coming to meet with the principal, I can pretty much give them a long leash. I can stand in the hallway and let them come in and meet with who they're going to meet with, and then, meet them right back at the door and go out. But if there's people in here that we might get word that there's hostile, might be protesters, it might be more like 2 feet. So I might be there with them while they're shaking hands. I'm looking at hands and stuff like that. So that's really the only thing that really changes as far as like the mindset. So I might start looking for different things. So or
being
different things in a different
too.
way. Yeah, and being vigilant. So
and that'll probably dictate, because a school day will be different than let's say a basketball or football game too, because that's an open environment. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then I don't want you to say too much, but I'm super curious because
I've been around politics, a while, so I know how to maneuver if I want to answer.
Because I'm very curious, because you talk about screening people now.
Yeah.
And let's say it is a football game, right?
Yeah.
Open environment.
Yep.
Obviously around here is not too many like high rise buildings and stuff like that, but you're canvassing people, or you're background searching. How do you even do that in an environment like this where you're not sure who's going to be there?
Yeah, and honestly, in those situations, you just can't.
Okay.
You just can't. There's certain scenarios and certain places where we sometimes are going in somewhat blind, or just somewhat just super vulnerable, and we know that. So it's just like, hey, the next best thing is how do we get up out of here as quickly as possible. So it's like, hey, we can't control everything. You can only control what you can control, and that's, hey, knowing where the exits are, knowing, how to get there, knowing where we call them hold rooms, hard rooms. So if there's something happen, what's the closest place we can go without windows that can lock from inside, that we can just go in there really quick just in case something happen, and find our way out of there if need be. But like you said, a football game, stuff like that, the best we can do is maybe a couple days in advance. Coordinate with the head of security for the venue and say, hey, we got this dignitary coming. Hey, this is where they're going to be sitting, or this is where they're going to be, this is their suite or whatever. How do we best do our job to help, make everything safe? And another thing is not make it awkward for them too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, we lose sight that we're doing our job, but they are also like, they got people in their business all the time. Like, so like the person I protect is like, she rarely gets time that she's not with one of us. So I'm here with you right now. There's somebody else in our detail that's with her right now. So it's just like she really only gets time to herself when she goes into our house and locks the door, and that's it. So whether she's on a phone call and so we're here in business and everything. So personal business, and that's another thing, mindset. Like we had to learn how to pretty much not say much. You can't really hey, I didn't hear that. You know what I mean? So even if it's stuff that's like, man.
Oh, because you are around all the time.
Because you're around all the time. So whether she's on the phone with the governor or the governor's on the phone with the president, it's just like you just didn't hear it. So that's one of the another things. As much as you want to go home and tell your best friend, your wife, or whatever, it's just like you just, who was that? Was that Chris Tucker? We said G14 classified information. Yeah. So you kind of got to keep it close to the vest sometimes. So but that's just one of the mindset shifts that you have to have when being on this type of detail. So.
Yeah, and I think the mindset shift starts a little bit earlier. So for me, I was really thinking about becoming, I told you this before, getting into the force.
Yep.
And I was looking at state police. I was looking at local police, and even accounting. Yep. And they were telling me that you have to go to the academy, which I kind of knew.
Yeah.
But for local, it's a little different than state. So local is like you go there during the week and come home on the weekend. Yeah. State is a little bit different.
That's a different beast, man.
So what was that for you? Because I feel like it started then. Because I feel like that it's probably like somewhat like the military, like the basic training to just show if you're really committed to this or not.
Yep.
So how was that for you?
That was actually.
Oh, it popped up. Are you good?
Yep. Right. The time's running on it.
All right. Welcome back to the Prosperity Education Podcast. I'm your host, Ty Johnson.
That was actually so. The way it's changed now, because they changed the academy a little bit, because just due to recruiting, and you lose, pretty much the ones who are not really there for the right reasons. You lose them pretty quick in the academy. And the academy is something that, if you ask all troopers, that's almost like the rite of passage. Like you got to go through the academy. If you make it through the academy, it's just like it's a sign of respect that you made it through there. Mm-hmm. Like I had guys who played fraternities and stuff, and they was like, bro, like, how can you ain't tell me it was like this, in there? They don't put their hands on you, nothing like that. But there's different ways of, they mess with your mind a little bit to kind of see how tough you are mentally, But I think that's where the mindset shifts, because they kind of, in a sense, start shaping and molding you into like thinking like, someone in law enforcement, because there's, we got this term what we call threat assessment, to where, you got the green, the yellow, and the red, and most people operate sometimes in the green, and it's not really healthy to operate in the red, that you're always on alert. But so they try to teach you how to operate most of your time, like, somewhere in the yellow, green area. Yeah. There's some people who take it to the extreme, and it's like, oh, dude, you always, think everybody's a threat. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's one of them things where in the academy life is different. You're there, you check in Sunday afternoon, and you're there overnight, Monday through Friday, and you go home Friday. And while you're there, you're cut off from the rest of the world. No cell phones, no TV, nothing. So you're
there. No TV?
No, nothing.
Wait.
Nothing.
So what's your free time fit? Well,
your free time is studying.
Oh, studying. Okay.
You study, because in the academy, You take a test. So the academy is 26 weeks. If you do the math, that's half of a year. That's 6 months.
26 weeks.
Yeah. So when I don't know what it is at now, but I know when I was in there, it was 26 weeks, and all of it was at the academy. I know now they changed it a little bit to where some of it, I think the last 6 weeks is at your home district that you're gonna be working at. But when I was going through there, it was 26 weeks, and like you said, you were there Monday through Sunday through Friday, and then you go home
For Saturday.
and then pretty
Just to
much
prepare
just
yourself
to
to come
prepare
right
to come
back.
back for Sunday. And the thing is, every Friday, we would take a test. Every Friday morning, we would take a test based on the instruction we got that whole week. And if you get a 69 or lower, you're done. You're fired. So the pressure of
Ain't no retakes.
ain't no retakes, no nothing. So the pressure of knowing, hey, I got a test at the end of the week that I have to at least get a 70% or more on 26 times throughout the course of the academy, and that's we lose people there, and it's a beast, man, because it's one of them things where they might give you instruction on the Illinois Vehicle Code, and I don't know if you ever seen that book, but that book is like it's a law book. Because you have to know the law, so they teach you the law as if you're becoming an attorney. If you're gonna enforce it, you got to know it.
Yeah.
And it's one that, like, I still got my very first one in the office at home, and it's tabbed up with sticky notes, color coordinated.
Cheat sheet.
Man, but even that stress, and then we got guys that come to the academy because, like I said, you're there all week, and they're missing out on time with their family. Some of these people might have kids and stuff like that, so. Just seeing them come there on Sundays is like, man, I don't know how much longer I can take being here. But at the end of it, it was definitely worth it, though. It was definitely worth it. So.
For sure. And then you were talking about failing the test. I'm just curious
Yeah.
now. Can you reapply and try to get back in if you get okay?
Yeah, there have been instances where someone might fail the test, or they might fail the driving course or the shooting portion, and you essentially get fired. So you leave. And you can reapply for the next round of applicants, and there has been people who've done that. So, or you fail the physical fitness part, because you can fail that too and go home. Like day one, the day you check in, you take a fitness test. And I vividly remember in my class when I went to the academy, we started with 64, and on the first day, 4 people failed the fitness test, and they all went home.
Is it rigorous or is it?
It's not rigorous, and the thing that trips me out about it is the fitness test that they make us take day one is the same fitness test that you have to pass in order to apply and get accepted. So you've passed it already, but you get the day. I think sometimes it's jitters, nerves, and all that stuff too, though, because that first day they check. We call it day 0 because it doesn't count. The first day you check in the academy literally doesn't count. That because you check in on Sunday. Day 1 is actually Monday, but it's one of them straight up out of movie military type of things where you got the guys in your face with the little brown hats, brims on their face yelling at you. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys are prior military, so they kind of know what it looks like. So
they bringing that from there.
Over there. So it's a paramilitary style environment. So it is one of those. They put you in situations a lot of times that you are going to fail. They know there's really no winning in the scenario. They just want to see how you react to when you fail.
It's good to know.
Yeah. So some of the situations you're just not gonna win.
Okay. But how you respond to it.
respond to it.
So we talk about working out. We talk about the physical test.
Yep.
You're a bigger guy.
Yep.
About 6'5", 6'6",
6'6", 230.
230.
Yeah.
So does that play a role in getting into your current role? The protection unit.
I don't think so now. More so.
Okay.
I think back. Previous years, maybe 10 years ago, maybe so. I think now they, look for more people who can, in a sense, honestly, in my opinion, people who can kind of blend in.
I'm gonna say it's hard for you to.
Yeah,
blend
it's hard
in,
for me to
brother.
blend in. And prime example. So there was something going on, with these protests with ICE and everything. So instead of I was gonna be the advanced guy to go out there and check it out really quick because they were. Planning on just showing up as the politicians to kind of see what's going on. And they would say, hey, you know what? We don't want you to be the advanced guy because when you get there, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
So it was so they sent somebody else who was, a little shorter guy and just walked in there and kind of peeped it out. And it's one of those things where it's it benefits sometimes being, discreet, looking like everybody else. But I think in a sense of deterrence, yeah, I think it definitely is it's a benefit. Because I've had several times where, people will come up and say, man, I would mess with you if I was with them or whatever. So it's one of them things where it has its benefits, and it also, has its downfalls where I don't really get a chance to hide anywhere. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about a place where it's definitely a benefit to you.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your roots, and let's go back to your upbringing.
Yep.
I know basketball was a big part of that.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about what got you into that? What was your upbringing like?
Man. So some of everything. I actually started off. People don't believe it, but I played baseball starting off.
And
I played baseball.
You out of that, huh?
Yeah, I played baseball most of my young life, and then I really didn't get into basketball until like 10th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
They let you go that long? Were you always bigger than everybody else?
Yeah.
And they let you play.
Yeah.
Man.
So here's the thing. I was a late bloomer too, as far as skill wise.
Okay.
So I tried out for teams in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I got cut from all of them.
Really?
It's crazy. I got cut from all my teams, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And then 10th grade is like when I started to really learn my body and stuff like that, and my athleticism. Like I could still jump now, but I used to jump out the gym then. So made the team then, and after that, I actually went to JUCO for 1 year. So like I said, I was a late bloomer. Nobody really knew who I was because I actually grew up in Memphis. I was born in Springfield, Illinois. Moved to Memphis when I was like in 2nd, 3rd grade. Spent time down there, played baseball, and then moved back to Illinois, 10th grade. And I stepped on, high school campus. It was like, who's this kid, whatever. And so they kind of already had their team sets and everything. And I came in and kind of disrupted some of that, and just played. Still kind of trying to make a name for myself. So people locally didn't know who I was. And then eventually I got some D2 offers and stuff like that. But I had a coach who thought, he said, you probably play Division I basketball. And I just wasn't as skilled as I was eventually. But so I went the JUCO route. So I was always a decent student. Mm-hmm. So I only went to JUCO because I didn't get exposure coming out of high school. So I went to JUCO for 1 year and really did really well. The team I played with, we were 4th in the nation. We had 2 guys that came down from Division I programs because of grades, and we had another guy, who was going to Division I. And I ended up getting a scholarship offer after my first year. Actually, a few of them, but only one of the teams knew that I can leave after 1 year because of my grades. Because most people assume that you're in JUCO because, hey, you don't have the grades or whatever, but so you got to stay 2 years. But once they found out I can leave after 1 year, they offered me a scholarship right away. I was like, hey, don't tell nobody, you know what I mean? So I ended up signing with Tennessee Tech University and went down there and played basketball for my last 3 years. So, played there and met some cool people, my best friends. And I actually led the conference, and I was top 5 in the country in field goal percentage my junior and senior year.
Okay, hey, look that up.
Yeah, look it up. Actually, it's still in the record books from at Tennessee Tech. That if you look it up, it's still in the record books that I hold the single season field goal percentage.
Okay, that's a big. But then also to speak a little bit more about, like, you weren't in a easy conference.
Oh no.
Can you talk about a little bit of who you played against?
So, and on top of that, I held my weight. So I averaged, I think, 10 points my junior year, like 9 my senior year. So, I had a high field goal percentage, but I was still scoring too. So, but in that league at the time, we had Kenneth Faree, who was a first-round draft pick with Denver Nuggets. We had Isaiah Cannon, also a first-round draft pick. We had Robert Covington, who also played in the league. And then I had a teammate who got drafted, Kevin Murphy, second-round draft pick. So, that league by far, it was Ohio Valley Conference. So we had Murray State, Belmont, Austin Peay, Morehead State, Eastern Kentucky. So that league was loaded during that time. So it was some good hoop during that time. So
that's pretty impressive. Yeah. That's really impressive. And so, baseball and basketball.
Yep.
You decided to leave baseball and take your talents over the basketball. What was the influence like for you, and who kind of guided you just to get into athletics?
So my dad, honestly. My dad's 6'8". My dad's bigger than I am. So my dad, he won a state championship in Missouri in high school. Like in '83. So he's my dad's he was really good. Actually, he just made the Hall of Fame in his high school. They retired his jersey and all that stuff. So my dad was actually pretty good. I didn't.
You come from greatness.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time until I'm like, dang. So as I grew up, I'm like, dang, okay, he was really the truth. So my dad kind of guided me in that sense as far as like getting into athletics, playing. But like I said, he introduced me to baseball because he played baseball growing up. He started playing baseball, but he was kind of that person that was like to kind of put the ball in my hand in a sense. And that, for me, just growing up the way I did, it was kind of, it was a little rough, my mother struggled with, drug addiction and stuff like that. So, and then my dad actually dropped out of college because he had my oldest son. I mean, he had his oldest son, my oldest brother.
Yeah.
And then, so by him dropping out, things just kind of, he didn't go and get his degree. So just kind of like the way things were set up, it was just like, things became hard. You know what I mean? So he chose his family over trying to hoop and getting a degree or whatever like that. So, but it is what it is now. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what made me who I am today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he always tells me now, because so my name is actually Alfred. That's my government name.
Yeah.
I'm Alfred. He's Alfred as well, and I named my sons. But my dad always he said, you the real Alfred, because you actually kind of, went on and did what you were supposed to do.
I know that's special.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, he's kind of really the one that kind of pushed me in the right direction. I vividly remember my sophomore year at Tennessee Tech. Just got there on campus, and like I said, I just came from JUCO, so the speed of the game is a little different. As soon as I get on campus, I'm like, man, this is different. It's quicker. The guys are bigger, stronger. Strength and conditioning is different. Running is different. Sprints are different. I'm like, I don't know if I can keep up. Yeah. So I called my dad. I was like, I don't think I can do this. You know what I mean? So like we sat there and talked for a minute. He literally talked me back into it, and I thank him all the time for it, because I was like, man, I was ready to like just be done, drop out, and not hoop no more. So
yeah, I literally just had a conversation similar to that
really?
With one of my former players. So I used to coach at Joliet West.
Okay.
I did that for about 5 years.
Yep.
And I was able to meet some really, really cool guys.
Yep.
And one of the guys, I seen this thing on social media. It was talking about how this guy just reaches out to people that he thinks about and just does it right then and there, and how that's so impactful for them. Wow. So I reached out to one of my past players in high school. He's now in college.
Nice.
Reached out to him, just checking on him, see how he's doing.
Yep.
He was battling through injury. He didn't play last season because he was injured, and he's coming back this season.
Nice.
And a big thing that I see from a lot of players, and this is kind of why I brought up sports, because I believe personally it's a time capsule of life. Yep. They battle through the confidence thing. They go from high school being the man, and then they enter into this huge pool. Like you said, it's athletes out there. And every level you go to, it's some athletes, but as you go up, they get that much better. And so I bring that up to say, what was it like going through that mental fight and that mental battle, and how sports has kind of guided you, and then as that takes you into your career?
Yeah. I feel like just going through those levels, it was humbling. Because I think one of the things that it showed me, one is like, there's always work to be done, because you are never really as good as you think you are. Because I thought I was a man, but then you get to college and you're playing against everybody else who was also the man. At their school. And so, like I said, there's levels to it. So you got mid-majors, and you got the Power 5 conferences that I remember going up against some of those guys. And I'm just like, yeah, I might not be going to the league, bro. And I think it was sophomore year, and I learned real quick. I was like, yeah. Like my grandmother used to always say, and I used to hate it. She used to say, Junebug, that's my nickname, Junebug. She was like, what's going to be your plan B when basketball don't work? And she used to say, win. I'm just like, man, like, she don't even believe in me, you know what I mean? And then when I got there, I was like, yeah, I'm about to come up with this plan B. So I think at that moment, it just kind of showed me like, man, like, you know what? Like, always have, something else in your back pocket to where if this don't work, I got this. It doesn't mean that, you're not, all in for plan A. It's just like, hey, like I'm just preparing. So I think that's one of the things that taught me that translate from basketball to just life. Just always prepare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna always be prepared. Like, you know, today I brought my kids with me, so I packed their little snacks. I was like, hey, I'm gonna bring y'all snacks. Get this. I got your tablets charged. Like, you know, I'm gonna prepare. You know what I mean? So I can do my thing. But you know, I think that's one of the things that it's always taught me was prepare. Like, there's something that my coach used to always talk about. You know, he used to say the P's. He used to say proper preparation
Prevents poor
performance. And
Yeah.
I remember that. I'm just like, dang, that's crazy. So it's just like, you know, that was our thing. Just always preparing. You know, whether it's like watching film or going over scout team stuff, it was just like preparation. You know what I mean? So even so, when I became a state trooper, I knew there was a written test. I knew there was an interview. So at the time, you know, my wife, we would sit down. She would just give me mock interview questions. You know, that we would search online, and she would just sit there and interview me. Or I can't tell you how many mock written tests that I took just to prepare for when I took the real thing, you know. And it's crazy because I would hear stories about people who applied for the state police, and man, this is my third or fourth trying to get hired on the list, and I went in there and got hired, you know, my first try, and they only hired at the time 64 people, and at the time I was told it was over 3,000 some applicants. And I was one of the ones that they chose. And I was just like, damn, had to be some preparation. And on top of that, being a former athlete, I didn't take for granted the fact that I was like, man, you know what? I'm a D1 athlete. I can pass this physical fitness test. I still went out prepared. Like, I would get up and run. I knew we had to run a mile and a half in a certain amount of time. So I wanted to make sure. So I would leave my apartment, take my little mile and a half, sometimes 2 miles to get used to it. I used to do that, lift, everything. Just to prepare to get ready for, you know, because it was something that, you know, once I made my mind up, hey, you ain't going to the league, bro, so, you know, start looking at this. It was like, all right, prepare for that then. You know what I mean? So I remember sitting in my apartment in college, filling out the application. I looked up how much they made, how much they was going to make in 10 years, in 20 years. So all that stuff, it was like, as part of my preparation, like, to get ready for it.
And that's huge, and we're going to get to that pay because I know a lot of people want to hear about that. But it's a couple different things that you said right there I think is very key.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you said when you were just talking about how you kind of came to a realization, I know Grandma was kind of pissing you off, but you came to that realization that this might not be it.
Yeah.
And that is, this podcast and this organization was built off the back of that. The reason being is because I've seen so many students, so many players go into school or go into a sport thinking that this is my ticket. If I do not get this, then my life is pretty much over. It doesn't mean anything. And so I think it's very huge to hear you say that, being 6'6", 230, and knowing that
size wasn't the issue. It was just like, oh shoot, this is a different talent.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. So I think that's huge to hear you say that.
Yeah.
And before we get into the pay, though, there's another thing that a lot of students that I work with specifically go through, and that's just the life challenges. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the life challenges that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are today?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been vocal with, especially people I come across who, if I can help, as far as like, you know, like statistically, I'm not even supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to be like legit locked up or probably dead. Like, so I got two brothers, three now. My dad, you know, since he had another child when I was in college. So 3 brothers and an older sister, and out of all of my siblings, I'm the only one to graduate high school, let alone go to college. So just like statistically, I'm like, duh, like, and then both of my brothers, you know, I got an older brother who's got arrested, so he was killed in 2023, but he would have been 40. I'm 36. He would have been 42 this coming. Actually, he would have been 42 this past summer, but he did like 14 years in prison. Younger brother, who's a year and 4 days, you know, younger than I am, he did 7-8 years in prison, and it was just like, I remember vividly. Just thinking like, dang, like, you know, every day I spent in college, I was grateful. I'm like, man, like, you know, I'm not supposed to be here. So in a sense, I felt like I was doing it for them. I was doing it for everybody. You know what I mean? So, and you kind of talk about that pressure, that ticket of like getting out. So for me, basketball was that ticket, but I didn't use it as like a ticket to like, this is the end all be all. It's like, this is my ticket to get in the door. but once I get in the door, I'm gonna see what's up in there. You know what I mean? So
that's a great way to take it.
So once I got in there, I was like, okay, what I really want is there, but it's some other good stuff in there too. You know what I mean? So it's like, so I'm gonna go for that. So I knew once I got in the door, like for me, I always told myself, I was like, yo, if I get a scholarship, if I get college paid for, I'm gonna be straight. Like my first and foremost, like of course, I want every boy's dream is to go to the league. So it's just like if I get my college paid for, I get a D1 scholarship. That's my main goal. Go D1, go D1, go D1. I got the scholarship, went D1, got there, I learned real quick. It's different. So now what you gonna do? You know what I mean? So I started working on that plan B a little bit. So that's when I think most guys, I won't say they struggle with letting it go. They struggle with adjusting. So it's just like, okay, yeah, it's just like, all right, cool. This might not be what I think it's gonna be. So, you know what else can I do to make the best of this opportunity? So I started really like, hunkering down with, academics. So I was like, hey, what can I do to make some money then? You know what I mean? So that's what I started thinking about. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a lawyer. That's what you hear when you're young. You be a doctor, be a lawyer. So I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer. So I started like really being intentional. I started preparing. So I went to my advisor. Most guys don't go to their advisor because for one, they don't know who their advisor is.
Great point.
You get to these universities and they get a guy there just to play basketball, get him on the court, and not really set them up to take a course load that leads them anywhere. So I was very intentional. Once I got the realization like, hey, I'm probably not going to the league, so let me take a major course load that's going to lead me somewhere. So I started meeting with my advisor, and I was like, hey, like, what do I need to do to start studying and getting ready for the LSAT, which is the exam you take to get accepted to law school. So we started taking, I started taking hard classes. Like, I remember taking a class, it was only on the Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. So they gave us like 126 Supreme Court cases, such and such versus such and such. And it was just like, you had to know them because only like 12 of them was going to be on the final exam. So I remember
100 and what?
It was like 126 cases.
And 12?
And only like 12 of them. Because so like one of the ones that was going to be on there, you have to say, hey, what was the ruling? What was the issue brought for in front of the courts? What was the court's ruling? Why was that the court's ruling? And like pretty much their justification for overruling or whatever. So it was crazy. So in that particular professor, he actually wrote the textbook that we were using.
So he was very familiar.
Yeah, he was. Oh yeah. So he was a former attorney. He went to law school in Notre Dame too. So but he was down there teaching. I actually reached out to him once I got hired at the state police, sent him an email or whatever, told him I appreciate it because a lot of stuff came in handy actually. So especially being in the academy, taking those tests, it was like, oh, I remember this case, you know what I mean? So some of the stuff I didn't really have to really study too hard because I remember from college. But that goes back to preparing. So once I knew, hey, this ain't gonna work, prepare for something else, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I started doing all that and then I took an internship the summer between my junior and senior year. And it was with so I had a mentor too as well. So when I would go home over the summers to to work out and play, there was a deputy from the sheriff's department who would to keep kids out of trouble. He would open up the gym. Hey, y'all go in here and hoop, whatever. And I'll come back later on. Or sometimes he'll stick around and watch. And I just kind of gravitated towards him, and then slowly but surely kind of built a relationship. And it would be times where hey, we get done and we end up going to his house or whatever afterwards. And I think that was the first time where I kind of seen like, dang, okay, I'm going to be straight even if I don't hoop. Because I seen what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Another black guy, I'm just like, okay, living in a nice neighborhood, drove a nice car. Like, he seemed comfortable. He was always talking about, I'm going on vacation here, this and that. I was like, man, you know what? I can be decent if I don't hoop. So he got me an internship with his department and the U.S. Marshals at the time. Mm-hmm. So I did that internship. And seeing the law enforcement side of it as opposed to just practicing law, because I want to be a corporate attorney. I want to read contracts between like unions and the employer and kind of like
lot of reading.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of reading. So I knew I was gonna be stuck in the office reading contracts. So just doing that internship, I was like, man, this is gonna be different. Like I could do something different every day, and it was fun. So I came back to campus senior year. I told my advisor, I was like, hey, I don't want to do law school no more. I want to go into law enforcement, and so. And then the rest was pretty much history after that. So But yeah, I just think being exposed to it then was kind of like what led me down that path of getting into law enforcement. So, and I feel like it was a great plan B. And I don't even like to call it plan B. I call it plan 8.1. You know what I mean? So it definitely worked out.
You brought up a lot there, a lot. So bear with me. I'm gonna try to get it.
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Because one, the thing that goes to my head, I feel like a lot of, especially the population that I deal with,
Yep.
they think about their job's not for me. They're not going to accept anyone like me. Yeah. But then you bring up another important topic of mentorship. Yeah. So you having someone there that looks like you, that are able to pour into you and show you that it's possible. But then it's another layer on top of that of you had a mentor.
Yeah.
You had an older mentor.
Yeah.
Well, you had two, your dad and your older brother.
Right. Yep.
And your dad had to make a business decision, take care of the family, which was a good decision.
Right.
But then you have somebody that you're more shaped by, being your peer, being your older brother, the one that's really close to you, and you decide not to go down that path.
Yeah.
So what kept pushing you? What kept you going down there?
You know what? Like, I feel like sometimes it's just circumstances. You know what I mean? So like, you know, my older brother, I seen what he was doing, and I'm one of them kids that at the time I didn't, but it's like, hey, if I see something that somebody else is doing is not working, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some things you gotta, you know, bump your head and figure out yourself. So it's just like, you know, I'll disclose. I remember in high school, I tried my attempt at selling weed. And we got a gun put in our face. So I was like, yeah, like I'm not a drug dealer, bro.
Yeah,
I play basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think then I was like, you know what, bro, like, all right, if you're gonna hoop, just hoop. You know what I mean? So don't try to be out here and, you know, be with everybody else that's out here. Cause, you know, I would see both of my brothers, they was doing, you know, skipping. Like my younger brother, you know, we were both playing varsity at the same time. So, but he would skip practice to go hang out with girls or go hang out with the guys or whatever. And it was just like, oh, he on something different. So I was just like, you know what? Like, if I really want to do this, like, I might just have to stay true to it. It's like, there was time, like, I vividly remember there's this projects I used to walk to by myself, have my ball, dribble down there. And because I didn't have access to a gym. So I used to go in there and get shots up. And they had the double rims and all that stuff. And on the gate, I used to keep track of how many shots I made out of 100. So, like, all down the black gate, I would take a rock and write, okay, 41 out of 100, 46 out of 100, 51 out of 100. And I would do that, like, pretty much, like, I probably got up, I ain't gonna lie, probably, like, 400 or 500 shots, like, you know, a day, just doing that, playing scenarios in my head. And that was, like, my way of escaping, like, my environment, the neighborhood I grew up, because it was rough. And for me, it was just like, I was a dreamer kid, so like I would go out there and just make up scenarios in my head playing. You know what I mean? So, so it was like one of them things that just kind of like let me escape and get away. But then on top of that, like I had teachers who cared about me too. So like I had the athletic part of it down, and so they had teachers like, hey man, like, you know, they realized that I was actually a great athlete. So it's just like, in order to make this work, you need both of these parts to come together. So you have to do well in school and on the court. So I remember, like, I used to go and prepare for the ACT test. I took it twice just so I can make sure I pass the NCAA clearinghouse so I can get a scholarship. That's another thing guys don't know about. I'm like, just because I'm good at sports, like, I'm gonna get a scholarship now. You know,
it's work.
It's ways around. I was like, I didn't know nothing about none of this stuff. So. But no, it's one of them things where, you know, I had those people in my corner, mentors, my dad, my brother, who kind of almost looked out for me. You know what I mean? So I think that's important to kind of like have people who have your best interests at heart. You know, to kind of push you in the right direction. So.
Yeah. I think there's something underlying in there too that you just keep bringing up. I think. Unconsciously, you just keep bringing up in it. Well, no, I think you did blatantly come out and say it, but I think you have a next level work ethic too.
Yeah.
You keep talking about this preparation.
Yeah.
Like you're doing stuff that now when A lot of kids will say they're working.
Yeah.
They're going to gym, sit around on their phone.
On their phone.
And they'll put up like maybe 30 shots. They'll look around, see if anybody's there to run with. If there's not enough people to run, then they'll leave, take a picture, clock out, post that. And that was their work. But you're talking about going and putting 400 and 500 shots up.
Yeah.
By yourself on a double rim.
Double
It's
rim.
very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm very
That's
familiar.
probably why I hold the field goal percentage now.
Yeah, because if you even graze that rim, it's over with.
It's done. It's
So
done.
I think that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. And so we going back to the mentor.
Yep.
What did you see in him, or what did he expose you to make you think like, okay, this is something I can get with?
I think so. Just for me, most kids, I think the root of like why they want to make it to the league is it's money there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna be straight. You know what I mean? So I think for me, seeing this guy who worked you can call it a regular job. He was a cop, and just seeing how he lived was so far head and shoulders above where I was at. I'm like, wait, bro, all I gotta do is be a cop and I can, you know what I'm saying? Like, live like this.
Yeah.
And so slowly but surely, I just started hanging around him and just seeing just something as small as like, this is crazy. He would give me a ride somewhere and he would stop at the gas station, put the pump in there, hit the thing, and get in the car and sit down. I'm used to my people standing there looking at the gas, looking at hold on, and stopping it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I see something that small, like, no, he don't even worry about how much money he just spent on gas in there. So it was like something like small stuff like that clicked for me, and I was just like, yo, like this man's comfortable. You know what I mean? So I kind of like put two and two together. I was like, yo, like if I just do this, like I'll be straight. So I don't have to I wanna go to the league. I want to play basketball professionally, but if I just do something like this, I'll be straight. You know what I mean? So. So then, like, I would start asking questions, like, "Hey, how do you get into this?" So, you know what I mean. So then he started teaching me other stuff too. Just, I had a dad, but I feel like I had two dads now. So he would teach me about stuff like 401k investing and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then he was like, "Hey, when I retire, this is what my life is gonna look like." And I'm just like, "Dang, this is crazy." So like it had like I was all in. Then at that point, like I'll probably say my junior year. I still had aspirations to play professionally overseas and stuff like that, and then but that all changed once I got engaged in college. So that kind of changed too, but seeing the way he was, I was like, you know what, like even if I don't hoop, I'll still be straight. You know what I mean? So and that's the route I took. So I was like, I'm happy with it. So
okay, and so. You keep talking about money, keep talking about being straight. What does being straight look like? So what do we start out as coming into being a state trooper?
Now it's changed a lot. I mean, so we talking. I came on in 2012, starting out in the door in 2012. My first so the thing is like they have a starting pay, which is your base pay, doesn't include overtime or anything like that.
But you get a lot of.
But you get a lot of overtime. And what they don't tell you is some of that overtime you actually you have to do, whether it be going to court, whether you get stuck on calls later. But I vividly remember my first year on the job. I started at $57,000. I think by the end of the year, I think I made like 91. As a 23-year-old kid, I was just like, yo, wow. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So to put into perspective, that was in 2012. Now in 2025, the new contract, starting off, walking into the door, no overtime, nothing. These cats are getting like $91,000 walking into the door.
Man.
So I was like, yo, this is crazy. So just think like for a lot of people, that's life changing.
For sure.
That's life changing.
For sure.
So you got to think about just the benefits, the health insurance. Some people ain't never had insurance in their life. And I remember, getting here and, seeing the benefits package. I'm like, yo, like, this is crazy. I can go get my teeth cleaned whenever I want to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So just anything. And it's just like, just seeing that. And not like I said, not to even brag, but just to kind of make it seem, I guess more desirable to people who used to think like, man, I don't know if I can be the police. Like, I don't think I've ever, outside of my first year, made under $100,000. In my 13, 14-year career now.
No, I don't think that's bragging. I think hey, because I keep saying this. I said this on other podcasts I did, and it just keeps coming up in my day-to-day life that the gatekeeping is dead. And so I
Oh
appreciate
man,
you being
yeah,
transparent
yeah.
with that.
I'm very. And for me, one thing about us, because I work for the government, all this stuff is public.
Yeah.
You can go to type my name in and Google search now. And it's taxpayers' dollars. You can see how much I made this year, last year, year before that, and all that stuff. But there's guys who like you can make as much money as you want to, because there's guys who double, triple their salaries just working overtime. It's not my thing. It's not what I want. I like to be at home. I like my days off, but some guys do it, you know. And then of course the benefits as far as like retiring early, and that's a whole nother thing as far as like taking care of your mental health, physical. Because I want, like, we can retire at 50, so I want to be in a place to where
No matter when you start.
well, you can retire at 50. But you can retire with your full benefit after 26 years of service.
Okay.
So if you start at 30, that means at 56 years old, you can still retire with 80% of the best 4 years out of your last 10 years. So whatever the average of that is, 80% of that, you get that for the rest of your life until the day you die. And if you're married, when you pass away, your spouse now gets 50% of that for the rest of her life until she passes. Even if she was working and doing that, doesn't even matter. And then they also offer, other, they call them 401ks, but it's not a 401k. Ours is a 457. It allows us access to it before we turn 59 and a half, because we are in a profession where we retire before 59 and a half. We have a mandatory retirement age of 60. So at 60, you cannot work no more. Like, they won't let you. You can't. So,
but you can still do like little
you can do
odd
you
stuff.
can do other stuff.
You
can't be a state trooper anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like for me, like my goal is I started at 23, 26 years of service. I'd be 49. I won't be able to retire yet, so I'll probably stay on for an extra couple more years, 51, 52, and then go do something else. Might go be attorney now. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. They got benefits such as tuition reimbursement, to whereas like I can go to school, and as long as my grades, I think it's a B or above, A or B, they'll reimburse that amount. I think it's like 90%. So there's people that I know who are troopers who went back and got their law degrees, and possibly going to do real estate law on the side, or maybe even lead a department and go practice law somewhere else. But it's tons of benefits in doing it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'll pay 10% of tuition any day.
Yeah,
any day.
Yeah.
Go back and take care of my schooling.
Yeah.
So talk about the benefits. So you brought up family.
Yep.
So got your 2 sons here
Yep.
now. Talk about what that, and you talked about a lot of people that like to hoard the overtime.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you got a family, I guess it's your prerogative.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But what does that work-life balance look like for you?
For me, I usually choose. So I do stuff on the side pretty much. So for me, because where I'm at in this unit, I've actually been able to establish some really good contacts. I think one of the benefits is like I'm tall and big, so people they like that. Yeah. So it kind of gives them the Hollywood look. So for me, I do private security on the side. So I've done it for celebrities and athletes, actors and stuff like that too. So people like, I've done it for Justin Fields when he was with the Bears. I used to work with Justin, so he would hit me up like, hey bro, I'm going to this steakhouse, or I'm going to this club, can you go with me, whatever. So I would do stuff like that with him, and you can charge a premium. So it's like, all right, hey, it's gonna cost you $150 an hour. So you can go out for 4 hours with him and make $600, and it's one of those things where, or you can say, hey, I charge you a 4-hour minimum. So you can go out with him for like 2 hours, and I'm away from my family for like 2 hours. It's not big of a deal. So, but you got to I pick and choose though. So there's certain things that I'm just not gonna do. If it's high stress, high risk, I'm leaving that alone. So, but yeah, most of the stuff like with like what I do with private security for a person, I'll typically do those more than anything, because I already do that at work day to day. So those things are a little different. But I used early on in my career, I used to do just anything I can get my hands on. I used to try to make as much money as I could. But as I started having kids and stuff like that, so I wanted to spend time going to their baseball games, basketball games and stuff like that. And just spending time at home, like all that stuff slowed down, especially because, as you progress on in your career, years of service, your pay goes up. So as the pay went up, it's like, okay, well, I have less need to kind of like do more overtime. So it's like you can kind of back up off on some of the overtime. And with that, that's kind of one of the things I took into like just mental health. It's like, well, I don't want to burn myself out so much to where now when I turn 50, 55, I have a heart attack because all I've been doing is working. So it's just like, kind of got to find that balance of like, all right, I'm going to just sit back and I'm going to just enjoy my days off. You know what I mean? I'm going to take my vacations and chill.
I like that. Man, I had a good question I wanted to ask you, and I forgot.
No, it's all good.
Man, it was what I want to follow up with.
What was it about the benefits or the balance?
Benefits, balance, paying for retirement. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's going to come back to me.
Yeah.
I think it was circling back around to something else that you talked about before.
Okay.
I don't know. It'll come back to me.
But even with them though, like my kids, my boys, I got 2 boys, and I've heard my oldest mention about being a cop. What I will say though is, now that I've done it, I don't feel the need to like push him to do something like that. I feel like I'm in a position now to where it's almost like, hey, you've kind of kicked the door down now. So if you want to do something else, like you kind of got like a little cushion to where I can kind of help and guide you or give you some time to where, as far as like, hey, like, cause me going, I didn't have the financial support to figure some stuff out. You know what I mean? So it's just like I can give them now some financial support to be like, if you need some time to figure some stuff out, if you want to start a business, you know what I mean? Like, you have that cushion now, as opposed to where it's like me coming out the door, it's like, hey, you gotta go get it. You know what I mean? So it's just like one of those things. Like, hey, so now it's like more so like, hey, they have options. And as far as exposure, it's like now I have friends who do a plethora of things. You know what I mean? Stuff that I had, stuff that I had no idea existed. It's just like, oh, okay. Well, I got a friend who does this. I got a friend who's an electrician. And it's just like, oh, you ain't got to go to college for that? And he's like, oh, no, this is all I have to do. I did this and this and make just as much as I do. And it's just like, I just built a house and I wired my own house. You know what I mean? So it was just like having those types of networks and to be able to like point them in those directions. Like, hey, bro, I got a question about this. Like, how does this work?
You probably have a connection to pretty much everything under the sun at this point.
Yeah, a lot. A lot. I'm talking about I got teammates who are coaches in, college, basketball coaches in college. So, networks there to where, one of my old teammates, he made a joke. He was like, hey, man, because he'll see some of my son, my 9-year-olds. He's like, let him know, like 8 years, I if you just sign on the dotted line. Yeah. So it's just like one of them things, too, where it's just like, I'm kind of grateful for that network. Because I think that coach, he actually coaches at Wake Forest now. But I got, friends all over who do all kinds of stuff. So all types of jobs, who are in sales and might even be in tech, engineers. So actually, I got a teammate who I think he just sold 2 patents. Oh. Yeah, so
okay, he really
he's doing his thing now. So I was like, oh, he's probably a millionaire right now.
Yeah. And so that's another important tip. Just building up a network. I think that's something that you've been sprinkling all throughout this interview too. Is just conducting yourself well. It's very important to conduct yourself well, because then you attract those kind of people to you, and now they're more willing to afford you different opportunities because they know they can trust you being around and not making them look bad.
Yep.
I remember the question I wanted to ask you. The reason why I didn't remember is because it was kind of insignificant, but it was just for my curiosity. So when you're doing that private security, for like a Justin Fields or actor, whoever, what are you just kind of like fending people off and just make sure they don't come close? Like, what does that look like? Or is it just like a chill job? They think people are going to come up to them and they really don't?
Yeah, it's kind of both. So a lot of times, like, I can tell. I can, like, even with Justin, like, I've been out of his house before. So, like, he'll, I was like, hey, where are we going? Like, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for? Like, you okay with shaking hands with people? You okay with this? So a lot of times it's almost like kind of asking them to what's your comfort level with this? Because I don't want to come off as like the overzealous person. Like, hey man, no, watch out. He don't want to. And he's like, man, I was just about to sign, his ball or whatever. So it was just like one of them things where you kind of, even just my day to day, you just kind of go with the setting, to where it's like, hey, but there has been times where they request some services and then we get there, it's just like nobody even knew who they were, nobody even recognized them. You know what I mean? So
He's wasting some money at
yeah,
this point.
I was just like, hey, you gonna pay me, I'll take it. But there's times where they thought something was gonna be something, but it wasn't, or and sometimes they just want you there just because it looks good. Someone had egos. It's like, I got my security with me, whatever. So,
Yeah.
but sometimes you gotta pick and choose. And I learned with that too. You gotta ask, hey, where we going? Because sometimes they won't really say, it's like, hey, can you come with me to this spot? And then we end up going somewhere else. After that, I'm just like, oh, I didn't know we was doing that either. So you end up like at studios, guys smoking weed, and just like, hey, any given time, somebody can come up in here and some problems gonna be had. So I didn't know we was going here. So it's just like I've learned to like ask certain questions like that now. But yeah.
Once again, back to being prepared.
Yeah, being prepared. You know what I mean? Hey, I want to know what I'm getting into.
Yeah. So now, speaking of the preparation
Yep.
and everything, I want to, if you can, the best way you can, build me a blueprint right now of how someone fresh out of high school, maybe they're thinking about going to college, maybe they're not, how do they get into this field? Step by step.
There's actually two pathways. If you are not interested in going to college, state police specifically, they used to require either a bachelor's degree or 3 years of law enforcement experience from another department. And there are departments that don't require you to have a bachelor's degree, so you can go and get on with a local department with a high school diploma, work there for 3 years, and then apply with the state police. Or there's actually the third option, military, if you have military experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to do college and you wouldn't mind going to the military, that's another route. Or you can just downright just go to college, and you can actually get a degree in anything. It sounds crazy, but
get an art degree.
Yeah, you can actually get a degree. Like we had a guy in our class. He was a finance major in college. He had a 4-year degree in finance and decided to be a trooper. Because he had a 4-year degree, he was able to apply with us and got on. Then after that, you go through the academy for I think now it's like 24 weeks. Go through that. And after that, you do have to work patrol for some portion of your career. So some guys, they get out there and they work patrol. Some guys love it. You know what I mean? Some people might work it for a year, 2 years. Some guys stay out there their entire careers. It just all depends on the person. I know some people are like, man, I don't want to be out there, chasing people or doing this and doing that. And that's another thing. There's so many things you can get into with the state police, from like Medicaid fraud to gaming to investigations to crime scene processing to what I do, executive protection to, joint task force. You might be working alongside DEA, FBI, and, a couple other agencies. But once you get out of the academy, work your patrol time. After that, the opportunities are endless. And I think it also depends on what type of connections, what type of network you build in that. So, crazy story how I even got here in this unit. I didn't even apply for it when it was there. I knew it existed, but not to its extent. I remember just sitting at home. I was working midnights on patrol. I just had my first son, I think. Yeah, I was working patrol, and I had my oldest, and I got a phone call out of nowhere, and I said, apparently somebody liked me. So, and that's another thing, just being myself. Not afraid to share just who I am and where I've been. I think a lot of people appreciate the authenticity of that, but
very much so.
It's just it was like, hey, you ever thought about going executive protection? It was a guy who was retired, who was making who's somebody who was over there. Reached out to him like, hey, any young guys on patrol who be interested? And he thought of me, and then the rest was history after that. So, but I think so college or no college, I would say, go on and apply with the local department. If you really want to get into law enforcement, work there for about 3 years and then apply, because we have a lateral program too. If you work for another law enforcement agency, we do have a lateral program to where you don't have to go through 26 weeks, 24 weeks of training. It's like reduced to like 12 to 14 weeks.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and I think, in those instances, it is kind of like the local ones where you just show up Monday through Friday, do your thing, and then you go home. well, not Monday through Friday during the day, like office hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's usually that's actually been a popular route as of late, trying to get guys over.
Yeah,
So,
because that reduced time probably is
reduced,
more
so we can get guys out quicker.
advantageous than going there for 26 weeks.
Yep. So I mean, everybody's, and honestly, most law enforcement is just short right now because just the people just don't want to get into it. Just
don't want to do it. Mass probably retirements too.
Yep, all that. So like, I just seen an ad for was it the Border Patrol? They're offering $50,000 sign-on bonuses.
Yeah, they're going crazy.
I'm like, what? So man, I looked into that. It's not even what
they advertise. Yeah.
It's like 50,000, but it's like over a span of like 10 years. So
Yeah.
I was like,
always that fine print. Fine print.
So, but yeah, I feel like that's it. You know, like you said, college. If you go to college and you get, so now we're only requiring a associate's degree, a 2-year degree. So guys who go to JUCO, and you know, he's like, man, hey, I don't know if I want to play ball after this. You can apply right away. You know, if you got your 60 credit hours, you can apply right after you get your associate's degree and become a trooper. And this is really probably like a prime time to start doing so because we're short. We're always looking for applicants. So as long as you can pass the test, written test, you're in shape. You know, the academy will weed you out. So it's just like, you know, just go in there with the right mindset. And yeah, I think you'd be set up.
Okay.
By far one of the best decisions I've made.
Yeah. I can imagine so.
Yeah.
So we talk about no college. So no college, go into the local unit, work there for about 3 years, and now they have a program to where you can do a lateral move to where instead of 26, 24 months, you only have to do 12 roundabout. The other one is going to college and go ahead and you don't even have to get your bachelor's degree now.
No.
Just get your associate's degree.
Yeah.
And then you can go ahead, go to community college, which is cheaper too if you didn't get a scholarship. And you can go ahead and get roped in. And then third one is
military.
Military.
So
Okay.
Go do your military time. So if you enlist, do your 4 years, you can get out and they'll actually give you more preferential points for military. Just as a.
Cause you said it mimics some more of a military too.
Yeah, it's a military style type of department.
And does that have the lateral portion of it too, to where it's cut down, or is it still the same?
It's still the same. It's still the
okay.
same. Yep, still the same. So there's no lateral with that. Only thing that's lateral is prior law enforcement.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I appreciate you mapping that out, because I think this is going to be huge for a lot of people just to see, because it's weird. I have 2 uncles that were state troopers, and I don't know. Like, I was always like against military. I was always against like police, because I was always thinking like it was so unsafe. Like, I'm gonna go there, and as soon as I step foot in there, I'm gonna die. I don't know what. but as I've gotten older, I see the perks of it, the benefits of it, and I'm more mature, and I realize that's not how things work. I was considering it very heavily, both the military, state trooper, local police. I was considering it all. So it was yeah, I appreciate you saying like that, because I think it would be a good avenue for a lot of.
I got
people.
My best friend who's my roommate in college, played with. He tells me all the time. He's like, man, I should have did what you did. That's what I was going. Something I wanted to mention really quick though was about majors in college, because sometimes we go there to play basketball, not really focus or pay attention to what we're getting enrolled in. So then you end up with a degree that's like you can't really apply to really a lot of things. So it's just like, making sure that, hey, the degree that I get, I can actually do something with it. Whether it's just, working the social work field, to where it's working in whatever, just like make sure you can apply it somewhere. You know what I mean? But like I said, with the state police, it's one of them places where if you get a degree, you can actually just apply based on the fact that you got a degree. So.
Yeah. I thank you so much for bringing that up, because that's one of my biggest things too, is just I don't like our hypervigilance on sports. It's cool that we think we're going to make it. It's cool that we want to, but that hypervigilance is something that really gets to me, because you kind of block out everything else, and it's like this. Okay, if you don't get this, then
it's like you don't see nothing else.
Exactly. And so I'm glad you bring that up. But then another point, I'll go back to what you said earlier, is that you wanting to get into law actually helped you out a lot when going through the program, because now you have that prior knowledge. So I think that's another reason why it's very important to be intentional about what you pick if you're going to choose to go that route.
Exactly, because some guys just pick stuff that's going to keep them eligible so they can play, and it's not really helping them out. Like, if it don't work out, and statistics say it's not going to work out.
Yes.
I hate to say that,
Yes.
but statistics say, like, I was talking to my 9-year-old, and I just took a visit down to Tennessee Tech for like an alumni golf outing, and just being back on campus actually it's like, dude, like, do you realize how like elite like you got to be to make it from high school to playing at that level, and let alone going from that level to now playing professionally? Like, we looked up, we was like, dude, it was like over 700,000 boys high school basketball players. There's only 300 some D1 basketball programs. Just say times 10, 12. That's roughly 4,500 spots on a roster. Most of them are already taken. So out of them 4,500 spots, you got 700,000 guys who all think, hey, I'm about to go play D1 basketball. To make it there and then go from there to like the 30 spots, 40 spots in the NBA.
There's so many different intricacies because you talk about high school, right? Yep. But you didn't talk about the JUCO because they pulling people from JUCO.
Now that's different. Yeah, I was just down there. I was asking one of the coaches. I was like, hey, how is it now? Like, now that you guys can pull like the portal and stuff, and it was just like, man, like, we'll probably only bring in like one true freshman this year.
It's not. It doesn't make sense for them.
It doesn't.
Why would I go get this kid that doesn't know the pace, is not strong enough? I'm about to go get this guy. He might not completely know the pace, but he's more familiar than this true freshman.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. It's a different game now. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting ride for me because like during that time coaching, I told you I've been able to coach some really cool people. The Fears is a big name around here, so I was able to be around them, being able to coach them. One's playing high level, both play high level D1 basketball. One's in the league, and so I was able to see, like, when you're talking about, you're writing on the wall all the different shots you took and all of the work you put in.
Yep.
I was able to see that firsthand.
Yeah.
And it now I'm kind of
it's funny.
Like it changes my perspective completely when I talk to other kids or people that's trying to make it. And I put in work. I seen real work.
Yeah,
I don't know if you putting in work.
I just on that note, I feel like when I was hooping, like in high school, like we all we did all day, we would hoop, go to McDonald's, get something to eat, come back, hoop all day. And it's just like, I think that's the thing with just basketball too. Like, a lot of kids they train a lot, but I think you benefit from actually playing, like, just because you learn what your mind thinks in game situations. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, when I do this move, I do that, and this guy just steps in front of me. It's not a cone. Mm-hmm. This guy actually stepped in front of me, so it's like, react. Now what I do. Mm-hmm. So I think I used to love that, because just hooping all day, it's just like, just working on them fast twitch fibers. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then it becomes like second nature, and you don't have to think about it. Yeah. Basketball is like a huge therapy thing for me, because it's like, because what I do for work, as far as like, I think all day. Yeah. I think about, okay, what's the possible scenario for this? What's the possible scenario for that? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's like, dang. So I'm actually thinking. For me, basketball is like one of the things where I just go out there unconsciously, just do.
Yep.
So yeah, but it's changed a lot though.
Yeah. I did want to talk about. We talk a lot about the positives. Yeah. What are some of the challenging things that you've had to encounter with your job and your career, whether it be maybe having to take time away from your family or just the different assignments that you put on? My biggest thing, and this is kind of what deterred me from going down that road, working nights. Yeah. I'm not going back to nights. Lord willing, I won't have to do nights ever again in my life.
I will say that's the one thing that I did not like about it. Is starting off, you're going to get, the short end of all the sticks, and it's just like, you're going to be working midnights most either midnights or afternoon shift. And it was just like, man, okay, which one do I choose? And especially like, with having, I had, at the time when I first got hired, we didn't have kids. And then shortly after that, I had my first child. I was like, okay, if I work afternoon shift, I won't be there when they get home from school, and by the time I get home, they could probably pretty much be in the bed. Or do I work midnights to where I work while they sleep, but I'm gonna be tired as I don't know what, during the day, just to be with them. It's just like that's one of the things that I didn't really care for was the shift assignments. But as you progress on in your career, that changes. So that only lasted for about the first 3 to 4 years. Now, I wouldn't even say 4 years. About 3 to 4 years after that, it's just like you got enough seniority to where you got kind of like the best portions of that. The other thing that I feel like is really getting more attention now, and I feel like our department is doing a really good job about, is the mental health space about it. Because kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning, the academy. As soon as you go into the academy, they start teaching you to think a certain way. And I think there's this term that they taught us in the academy. It's called personal face. So anytime anything happens, you're not really supposed to show any sign of your personal feelings towards it. So if something happens that you didn't like, I don't want to see your face of disgust. I don't want to see your face. I don't want to see none of that. So they say, hey, Jones, lose a personal face. So you just sit there and just no emotion. I think over time, it just causes you to become callous to feeling your feelings. So whether it's, and I think they do it, their reasoning behind it, I get, but I don't think we realize, probably until like now, we start to get more attention to how detrimental it is to our mental health. Yeah. So it's like, even in just relationships, that's why divorces happen, very high among law enforcement, because they're teaching you to pretty much like not have emotions, to not feel stuff, because you got a job to do. You show up to a scene, you pull up to a scene, there's a 4-year-old kid dead from a car accident. You have no time to sit there and like feel your feelings. Like, dang, this is horrible. Like, it's like, okay, you gotta get people's information. You gotta figure out who's going to what hospital. You got all this stuff. So you have no time to sit and think and have empathy and have, and then so what you do with it, like you wait till you either get home or you just don't deal with it. You know what I mean? And over time, it just causes you to kind of suppress a lot of stuff, and then you become callous. And so then, just personally, like just me, like my marriage, where it's just like, there were times where my wife would say stuff like, like you don't even care. And then for me, it's just like, I do care, but I don't even know how to show it no more. You know what I mean? Because I've been like putting off certain feelings for so long. It's just like, I want to show you that I care, but I don't even, like, where do I start? You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the negative sides to it. And I think in those instances, I feel like they've made it more accessible for us to seek counseling. So like I went to therapy and with my wife and by myself, just to kind of talk through some stuff of like how the job has affected me just mentally and everything. So I just feel like that's one of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot, the negative parts of it. So which I think it should be. But yeah,
just so you're completely aware, you get the full rounded circle.
Yeah,
we can talk positives always. We can talk about money. We can talk about access. Talk about network. We can talk about all that. But you gotta get that full rounded circle.
Yeah, because I remember during orientation when I first got day 3, when I graduated the academy and I got to my district of assignment, they took us to the Cook County medical examiner's office, and we got they made us watch autopsies, and their logic was to prepare your brain to see stuff that you're really not used to seeing. Yeah. A body being opened up, the insides. So it's like, and sure enough, you get out there, you get to an accident, 4 people dead in this car, and everybody dead, and this person's mangled up. They knee is not supposed to be over there. They arm is not supposed to be twisted this way. It's just like, you just walk away and you just write down info. And it's just like, dang, okay. And then you don't realize it, slowly but surely, like you start to kind of like lose, like I said, just become callous to like, just not even human life, but just like, just stuff, you know what I mean? So it's just like, oh shoot, like, but then as you start, so for me, like I've started this process of like, trying to like humanize myself, you know what I mean? Cause it's like, I'm not a machine, you know what I mean? So like there's things that I do to where it's just like, it just brings you back to like this, I guess, center. You know what I mean? Whether it's like listening to my favorite music on the way home from work or whatever, just to kind of get me out of the mode of like work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but yeah, I feel like that's in my opinion, that's probably one of the biggest things, negatives about this job. So.
Brother, you've been so open and transparent, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I really do. I hope that the viewers just receive this well, because this is a lot of it's behind the curtain.
Yeah,
It's just stuff that you don't really know, because I think oftentimes in the world in general we just see people as their title and their role.
Yep.
Yeah, but you don't really know behind the curtain, and you don't really know the intricacies of that role. Because just because in your profession, just because I pulled you over right now, you're about to get a ticket, doesn't mean I'm a terrible person.
Right.
I'm just fulfilling my role right now, and you were in the wrong.
Yeah.
So
there's time. And then on that note, though, is just I feel like it's one of them things too, like especially in the height of like all the injustice that and I feel like it hurts, especially as a black dude, looking at some of this stuff. But also the part that does hurt, understanding both sides. It's like, dang, I can not justifying nothing, but there's times where I was scared because I'm a human, that I really had no business being scared. If you look at it from a perspective like, oh, why was you scared? And it was just like, well, that's another thing. I think they that's one of the negatives. Sometimes they train us to think worst case scenario. So, like, for instance, I'll just tell one story. I'm done. But
that's good information. It's great information.
Like, so, for instance, like, I'm 6'6", 230 pounds. I remember working afternoon shifts in the fall time. It was getting dark early. Stopped this car, and the guy started pulling over. But before he put his car all the way in park and stopped, I seen the driver door fling open. My mind instantly said, oh, shoot. I've seen training videos in the academy about he's about to get out the car and start shooting at me next. What I do, I step out, put my gun out, start yelling at him, get back in the car, this and that. I didn't even see the guy yet. Didn't see him. Didn't know what he looked like. Couldn't give you a description and anything. But I knew based on the training, like I was like, oh shoot, this is almost about that. This is probably about to happen. But the likelihood of that happening, because we always talk about, as soon as I step out, I'm gonna get killed. The likelihood of that happening is slim. But they train you to think like, hey, this is
possibility.
This is a possibility. So you think the possibility is going to happen at every single traffic stop. So I get out there, and it was an 81-year-old frail old white man. And he got in the car, and I got back in my car after he got in his. I'm just sitting there, heart pounding. I'm just like, dang, I'm scared. So I was still kind of nervous. So I had my spotlight on him. And one of the things I learned was like, they teach us like, hey, don't break your spotlight, because once you break the spotlight, if you walk in front of your spotlight, it breaks it so they know that you're coming. I got out, walked around my squad car, went to the other side, and was at his passenger window. So I'm sitting there like, man, what's up? Why'd you get out the car? And he was like, man, I'm sorry, trooper. He was like, where I'm from in the South, as a sign of respect, you come to the trooper, you don't make him come to you. And I was just like, I was like, hey, don't do that again. Don't do that again. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, what would it have looked like? This 24-year-old black kid, 6'6", 230 pounds, shoot this old white man because he said he was scared. Mm-hmm. And can't nobody tell me I wasn't scared. Bro. I was like, yeah, he finna get me. And the whole time it was just like, dang, like, bro,
he was trying to be respectful in his way.
Yeah, he was trying to be respectful. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, that's the hard part about the job too. It's just like knowing that there were instances where, bro, I was terrified. But it's just like, but then you see it on the other hand too, where I have scenarios where I'm on the stops with other guys. And I'm just like, you can clearly see them treating somebody unjustly. I was like, oh, that ain't cool either though. You know what I mean? So that's the hard part. And then try to speak up and say something about it. Because there has been times where I spoke up and said something about it and took it all the way up to EEO and all that stuff. And it just feels like sometimes they do what they on paper, what they supposed to do, but nothing really happens. So we're just like, dang, like, it just sucks. It's just like sometimes you get lumped in with them too. And it's just like, that's the part of the job that I don't, it's a negative. It's like, dang. So now I used to be proud to tell people what I do, especially in the neighborhoods that I grew up in. My mom was like, oh yeah, my son, this and that, and this, Now I'm like, Mom, you might don't tell police I'm the police now.
It won't go over so well.
You know what I mean? So, but no, I would say that's probably one of the negatives. But all in all, I feel like it's still a great profession though. You know what I mean? So if I had to do it over, I won't do the academy again, but I'd be a trooper again though.
So in that same vein, I just want to go back and touch on you. So two questions lumped into one. If uh, if you could talk to the 18-year-old and tell them, A, could you what would that person look like? What would their mindset need to be? And B, what would you tell them is the best advice when they're going off
Um,
or attempting to join?
yeah. I would say, I know it's hard too as an 18-year-old. Before you gotta pick your friends really well. I know that's hard sometimes too, but you gotta, because there's instances where guys will not get hired based on who they associate with.
Oh, because they do background checks.
They do
on them, right? Thorough.
intensive background checks.
Checking on neighbors
Yeah,
and stuff.
they do a canvas through your old neighborhoods, knock on doors. They'll sit in your house, go through all your bank records, all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's intensive. So I would say just at that age, it's very important to pick your friends. And I was the mindset to have going off and applying is just prepare to learn. I would always say you don't really fail, but kind of prepare to fail, because you're gonna make some mistakes. You're gonna do some things wrong. I think a lot of times that's how you learn. Like, there's some things that I've done, on the job. I was like, yep, it was a big enough mistake, or a mistake enough to where I remember I was like, I won't do that one again. You know what I mean? So, but just not getting down on yourself about those things. So even in just day-to-day life, you know what I mean? Just had that mindset of just learning how to pivot from mistakes or things you didn't do well. So
I like that. We're wrapping up here, and one question I always ask all the guests is, what is a quote that has aided you in your life or propelled you forward? What's one of those quotes that you just hold dearly and has helped you get through?
You know what's crazy? So my dad, remember I told you I was about to drop out, and I was like, I don't want to do it. It's not necessarily a quote; it's actually a whole poem, which I got it. The first part of it tattooed on my bicep here, and it was something my dad taught me in 5th grade. The poem was "Don't Quit," and the first part of it goes a little like, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will. When the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the depths are high, you want to smile, but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. And that's just the first part of it. It's like three whole paragraphs long. But I actually have that part of it because like that was something he made us learn. He was like, hey, we didn't understand it at the time, but he offered me and my little brother $10 each if we could learn it verbatim within a week. And we did, because we wanted $10, but it stuck though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was something that when things really did get hard, and I wanted to, everything seen up here was just like, all right, don't quit. Just don't quit. You know what I mean? So I feel like just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. I don't know who said, was it Chris Paul? Keep stacking days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just that's what consistency looks like. You might not see it today, but just keep showing up.
It'll pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. Don't quit.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to look into it. Do you know the author of it?
Shoot, I used to know the author and all that stuff too.
It's probably out there. Just Google "Don't Quit" poem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, is there any way that we can, our community can help support you, support your mission? Is there any lasting advice you want to give? So let me retract.
Yeah.
First, let me start with, is there any lasting advice that you want to give, or is there anything that you want to say that we did not cover?
No, not that I can think of. I feel like we covered a lot of the stuff. So.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad
Yeah.
you did revert back
Yeah.
though and talked about the classes as being important. That was a huge
You know what?
one.
Only advice I would say is that kind of the stigma almost that we talked about of like, man, I don't want to be no cop, man, this and that. And I just think that if we continue to have that attitude, nothing will ever change. Because that attitude says, man, like, that's not for me, that's for somebody else. And the somebody else that you're referring to is going to keep it the same exact way that it is. So it's really your duty to kind of like help change some of this stuff. And one of the ways to help change it is be a part of it.
I'm gonna say, yeah, be a part of the change.
So
Very huge.
you know,
And then getting back to the next question, how can we? I think you kind of pieced a little bit of it in there, but how can we support you? Or how can we support your mission? Where can we find you if you have any handles?
yeah. So I have a Instagram and a TikTok. Instagram, you can reach me AHJones34, and then TikTok, I'm just Al Jones.
Okay.
You know, but the best way is just just if you're interested, just apply. You'll find out real quick if it's for you or not too. So.
Okay. This was huge. This was. I don't want to put any labels on it because I don't want to offend nobody. But this was a great interview.
Yeah,
it's a great interview.
It was great. I could talk about this stuff all day, man. So
yeah, I can tell you're very insightful. There's a lot of different things that I didn't touch on for the interest of time, because our attention span, whether it's young or old, like it's very short now because of things like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Our attention span is really short. So I'm hoping that some of the viewers, made it to this point because there's a lot of different things that you gave in there, whether directly or indirectly. I think this is definitely one that it's a rewatch.
Yep.
You watch it one time, you get some of it, but you get that second time, you kind of dive in deeper. So I appreciate you so much for that. I appreciate you coming out. As we always say, prosperity and education. You cannot prosper unless you take the time to actually educate yourself. You cannot grow and break outside. You cannot grow unless you break outside that comfort zone. So let's ensure and let's be intentional about trying to grow and being prosperous all through education. And we're out.
Peace.
Man, this was dope.
It went better than I thought.